Welcome to Toxicology, brought to you by Recovery Unplugged, the place where we talk about all things substance abuse, recovery, and mental health, with guests offering varying perspectives and viewpoints. Hosts Joseph Gordo and Jason Cabello share about their addiction and recovery and other serious subject matter through lighthearted yet candid conversation.
Nathaniel Earl, everybody.
Jason.
Nate Laningham. Laningham.
Lanigan sounds more Irish.
Jesus, learn the fucking guest's name before the show.
We're friends.
It's not
Jason
even like
Cabela.
they sent you, like,
Yeah.
you didn't even get like a information sheet or anything. Like, this is your buddy.
Yeah.
My management's dropping the ball.
Can you say his last name?
I said Cabela as a joke,
Yeah.
which I've introduced him as many times accidentally.
Yeah. So he has. So we're even.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
even. We're even.
Yeah. We were on an email thread, and I'm just like, you could spell my name right, you know?
Come on, bro.
Yeah.
Love your hunting and fishing supplies.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the old man to kick the bucket, and then I get that big hunting and fishing money.
Nice.
Absolutely. What are we doing?
Starting the podcast.
On the podcast. Hey.
Hey.
So, I guess Nate, have you ever watched the show?
I have.
Yes.
I have,
I
yeah.
love it when they've actually watched the
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised how many people are just like here. They're like, no, I have no idea who y'all are, but I've agreed to do this.
Yeah. No, I checked it out. The name, I really like puns, and your play on words here is great.
You know what it sucks
I'm a fan.
when it does suck is when if I'm trying to promote it on something that doesn't have any visual, and I'm just like toxicology, but it's not TOX, it's
like
TALK,
it's like
and it's not
talk.
psychology. It's like, so you pretty much have to spell out the whole thing,
Right.
like Laningham.
Like Laningham, exactly. Well, my name's Nate Laningham, but I go by Nathaniel Earl. Earl's my middle name. Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. It's taken probably 3 years for people to actually refer to me as Nathaniel Earl in a professional space. It's been confusing.
Has
So
anybody
we should call you Nathaniel Earl.
You can call me whatever you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, Nathaniel Earl.
Woo! Welcome to Toxicology. Now that's spelled TALK.
Yeah, when I got my South by badge the other day, the woman said, "Hello, Nathaniel," and I said, "Who sees that name and says Nathaniel?" But good for you.
Wait, what kind of South by badge did you get?
An artist badge,
An artist badge.
not because of Nathaniel Earl, because of Daniel Fears, but Nathaniel Earl played the kick drum for Daniel Fears.
Hey, someone's got to kick the kick drum.
Well, I hit it with a mallet,
Oh,
Yeah.
Is it still considered a kick drum at that
non-traditional.
point?
bass drum. We'll go with bass drum, malleted bass drum.
That's got to be. Was that your first ever artist pass?
It is.
That had to be like a really cool moment to be like, I didn't pay $1,500 to come to this thing.
He's been killing it.
Yeah.
We got to see him. Well,
That's
let's start from the beginning, and then we'll get into.
Well, hold on. I just want
Okay.
1 year back when South by was like real cool, and you could just go hang out downtown with no money and still have a good time. Somebody stole a box of backpacks off a truck and threw the cardboard box on the corner of the street, and there were these purple JanSport backpacks that had official ACL artists patches on them, like they were custom for the artists.
Ooh.
We're past the statute of limitations on that, I'm sure, but I stole one and I have it at home, and it is one of my prized possessions.
You didn't steal it. I mean, it's literally it fell off.
Someone else stole it,
Yeah,
and I
somebody
found
else
it.
stole it, and you found
You
it.
recovered it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But sometimes
Discovered it.
Sometimes I wear it in public, and people are like, "Ooh,
Big shot
did
over
you
here.
perform at South by Southwest? 2010?" And I was
He's like, yeah, I played the devil sticks.
yeah, the devil sticks. Okay, you were gonna get us on track.
Well, no, you just went sideways.
That's my job.
Okay,
You're the straight man.
that's right. Well, I think we go back and forth from good cop, bad cop.
We should let the guest talk.
I'm enjoying this. Please continue.
So, Nathaniel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
What would you like to know?
Oh, how the journey started for you.
The journey.
We would like to hear about childhood trauma, what your life was like growing up,
All right.
when you figured out you were kind of fucked up.
Yeah, so
Let's start with that.
Daily.
all things recovery, mental health, music. But yeah, just a little background on yourself for the viewer at home.
All right. Well, hello, home viewer. I'm the oldest of 8 kids, so childhood trauma was built into that.
You're just born with responsibility.
Yeah. Well, yeah, probably changed 3,000 diapers at this point in my life.
Well, he wasn't born, but he just inherited.
Good delineation.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't born. I think my journey into like the recovery space happened in the mid 2010s. Became like pretty busy in the music scene, and there's a lot of drugs and alcohol in the music scene. And I remember discovering cocaine and being like, oh, this is like that thing that I need in order to perform confidently on stage, because I had a lot of stage fright back then. And so, 20 bags were a daily purchase with gigs.
Did you write it off on your taxes at the end of the year?
Right. Well, I mean, it was baking soda, so I could have put it on there as kitchen supplies or something, office supplies. I think, man, you offered a lot of things for me to start on, so I'm trying to latch on to something. Let's see. I guess it wasn't until 2019 when I got serious about recovery, and I went into Recovery Unplugged, and had a pretty like spiritual experience there. I think, in the different branches of recovery, they talk about spiritual experience a lot. And for me, it definitely was that like aha moment, sitting in bed in partial hospitalization housing, which they call PHP. And, like a guy over here who's peeing himself in the middle of the night, and a guy over here who's talking to whomever else is existing with him inside his head. And I was just like, fuck, this sucks. I really need a drink right now. I need something to escape this madness. And I remember learning the serenity prayer. It was the one thing that stuck with me in the rooms and in the what do they call them in group? Group. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a minute. Come on, recall. And so I remember just being like, well, that's the only thing I've memorized so far out of the dozens of hours of groups that we'd had. And just kind of was like, maybe if I pray, like I'll find some kind of peace, and prayed it and was like, nope, no peace there at all. It just
didn't work.
So I kind of just was like, well, let's start one word at a time. So I just stuck with the word God and was like, I'm just going to say God until God makes sense. And it took about 3 hours, but after about 3 hours, everything just calmed down and I felt this sort of peace. And from like that moment moving forward, I had the stability that I didn't have before. And obviously there was, tons of ups and downs following that experience, but it did lay the foundation for the life that I have today, which I couldn't have imagined having at that point. I feel like a lot of peace and a lot of serenity in my daily experience, and the anxiety and depression and just mania that I experienced in plant.
It's fake. Yeah.
I feel like I have a pretty balanced life today, which is an insane concept.
One thing I love about like recovery spiritual experiences is it's like very rarely is it like, I was on a mountain in a national park, or I walked into this cathedral, or you know what I mean? It's never like idyllic, right? It's like there was a guy next to me. But it almost sounded to me like, like you had this moment where you're sitting there and like this guy's peed himself and this guy's, talking to voices, and you're thinking you need a drink, that it's almost like, did you have like that realization of like, wow, like I'm here with these guys because like right now I am like on par with this is the room I belong in right now. And that is a concerning realization,
It's one of those things. It's just like when it comes to you, and usually for people in our circle, it usually doesn't come at the most opportune. Well, no, I mean, I guess opportune moment doesn't really exist until it happens, right? Yeah. But it's like one of those things where wherever you find your peace is like usually for people like us, it's usually in a pretty crazy place.
Yeah, you can't plan it.
No,
like, oh, when I go to Paraguay next weekend, That's when I'm going to find
That's-
my
yeah.
peace.
I'm going to set this time aside for a spiritual awakening.
Right, exactly. Sunday at 3 p.m.
Right, and it's gonna be
But
great.
I think for normal people, just though, like even just saying like, yeah, I had a spiritual awakening like in rehab. For normal people, that's already like kind of a like, ooh,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
are you sure? Like rehab?
Well, that's what you want to hear. Recovery Unplugged.
Yeah.
You get your spiritual awakening.
Yeah. Oh man, it was a spiritual awakening. All right. I had like blown out my knee a couple days after I got into Recovery Unplugged, like doing nothing. I think I was just walking and I had this like watermelon of a knee. So I would sit on the porch at one of the partial hospitalization houses with my leg up on the railing, looking at the sky. And that was the end of that story. But
Yeah. All right. Great story. That's a great story.
I guess the point was like I was just miserable, like what with like on crutches. When you're on crutches, you're just hot and sweaty all the time. And
Yeah.
coming off the
2019. Who was your
alcohol.
counselor? Like, who was the PHP crew back then?
The Nolo guys were like Richie was leading groups. Jay was doing a lot of stuff. He was
Both
the tech. Well,
guests of the show.
Jay was the guy that picked
show.
me up and brought me to
yeah.
yeah.
Probably Shay was running groups
Shay
too.
yep.
Yeah.
Shay was there, and
So you probably still had like the OG crew, like Anna Wardy
Mhm.
and Brian, and God, oh my God,
some guy named Patrick, I think.
Patrick,
He was the tech. But Tony Trevino, he was there.
Tony's been on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
Tony yesterday under very sad circumstances.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. We'll talk about.
yeah we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember Tony stopped me from AMAing.
yeah.
Yeah,
He was good at.
I was
that.
like,
Wait, why did you want to AMA? Because sometimes we talk about ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. What was your AA?
my AMA was like, oh man, I need to get back to making music because that's what's really going to make me happy. It had been like 2 weeks, and I hadn't like been playing around in the studio, and I was like, oh, this is the thing that makes me happy, and I need to go back to it. I'm above this shit.
You're like
And
leaning
Tony-
on the guitars and the piano. You're like, I need to get back to making music.
Right.
Guys, you don't understand.
I don't know. Playing guitar is not enough.
Yeah.
I need all my shit.
You know what? John Cage didn't need instruments to make music.
True.
Nor did
That's
Bobby
true.
McFerrin.
Yeah,
There you go. Or Dougie Fresh.
or Bismarcky.
Tons of people don't do music. To,
Or
instruments
did
to make music.
Benedictus the Third? He was a
That's,
monk.
yeah, that's we could go on for hours on this. So
I just saw the opportunity to make a John Cage joke.
Love it.
Yeah,
That, like I
that's-
knew people would know what I was
that's the
talking
first,
about.
yeah, the first John Cage mention on the show so far. So
Shout out John Cage. Is he alive?
we could do a fact check, or Keats will check the facts. Check the facts. But if anybody's been playing the bingo cards that we send out, the John Cage one can now be marked. So leading up to 2019, when you finally went into treatment, or I don't know if that was the only time that you went into treatment, what were the couple of weeks leading up to that?
Wow. They were, it was South by actually, South by Southwest. I was working an event that was sponsored by a tequila company. So I was bringing home bottles of tequila
Yes.
as a tip every day. And I think I was also living with somebody who was really in a bad space and was doing a lot of drugs. So there was just like, plates of drugs, whatever kind of wanted when I'd walk in the living room.
Oh,
and
wow.
it was a great
But I mean, that sounds kind of nice.
memory,
Yeah.
maybe, but not an actual great experience. And I think I found myself, I had recently gone through a divorce and suicide attempt. So I was out of a psych ward and everything was just chaos. I was on some psych meds that were bad for me and I had come off of them, but cold turkey on my own. So my brain was just sort of spinning, and I filled up that spin with drugs and alcohol and just kept the spin going and started to try to control it, but was like not showing up for work, was not eating well. My hygiene was crap. And then the original reason I went to rehab was thinking like, oh, I'm going to win my wife back. I'm going to show her I'll get clean, and then that didn't happen, gratefully, but
Viewers at home, trying to get sober for somebody else almost never works.
never works.
Yeah.
Luckily, it transitioned halfway through treatment because they kept talking about you got to do it for yourself.
Right. The one of the best things that I ever heard when I was early in my recovery is that happiness is not car keys. You don't find it where you lost it.
Mm.
Oh,
And
I've
that's
never
pretty
heard
good.
that one.
Really?
Yeah.
That one stuck with me and it's funny too, because I went through a divorce too, and it used to be such a huge part of my story.
Mm-hmm.
And now, just like you, like we've been friends. That's the first time I ever knew that you were married before. you might not have known. You probably didn't know that I was.
I did not.
Listen, I knew you 5 years before I knew you'd ever been married.
And it was such a big part of my story for so long. And now people like my best friends like out here like have no idea. And it just goes to show like how much that you could obsess about something. And it wasn't like it was like a great experience that I was like, now looking back, I'm like you just said, like, thank God that shit didn't fucking work out, you know, like, oh my God, I would have just been like in and out of these things most likely. But yeah, so that's one of the things that you learn. It's just like these little things that you think are the biggest fucking deals in the world. You do some work on yourself, you get to the bottom of things, or, you know, try to get to the bottom of things, and then find out like, oh yeah, that wasn't the greatest situation anyway. Maybe it was all for the best.
Absolutely. I think to piggyback on that, another thing that's happened for me is like I used to identify so much with like my traumas and the negative moments in my life as my identifiers. Mm-hmm. And now my experience is like based on like habits or patterns of successes, of overcoming shit and like feeling stable. And those are the things that I identify as who I am. And so the other stuff falls away and has even less weight to it. I wouldn't say like all of the trauma is not on my sleeve, you know what I mean? But I'd say like something like a divorce is like, oh yeah, I remember I was married at one point. That's comical to think about even.
Right.
Who the fuck would marry me?
Well, I just think you illustrate a great point about like identity, right? And like kind of like our self-written stories about stuff, right? Because like for, you know, at one point I'll speak for myself, right? My identity was like, I am a heroin addict.
Yeah.
Like, that is core to my existence and everything is driven by that. And even into early recovery, right? Like still very much was like, well, I'm a heroin addict. Like that is, you know, like almost like to distinguish myself amongst the other drug addicts in the room, you know?
Yeah. Right.
And then eventually like that stops being the case. Like, you know, like I view myself like as a person in recovery, and I can share experience around recovery without necessarily having to be like, yeah, like I was a heroin addict and, you know, needles and abscesses and, you know, all that kind of crap. And it sounds like you've experienced kind of the same. Like you identify as like, I'm a person with trauma and I'm a person with this and that. And it's kind of moved away from that.
Absolutely. Yeah. The only time I regale stories of using is just to like shock people or provide some entertainment in a quiet room, you know?
Yeah.
I can sense the conversation getting dull and I'm like, well, you know, I got a couple stories. I almost shared one of them right then. And then I was like, I don't know if I actually want to put that out.
You're in a safe place here.
but then this goes on the internet, and the internet is not a safe place.
Yeah. You know, because sometimes if you're, you know, conducting business as a recovered person, you might want to skip the shooting up toilet water stories and you know, things like that. But
listen, I already put all my shits on the internet already. There's
yeah. It is. That's why you didn't win the election.
Yeah.
Did you
Joseph ran for school board.
Yeah.
Okay.
About a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I lost by 900 votes.
900.
In a very conservative part of the town too. So
yeah. But Wilco.
Oh yeah. Where are you in Leander, Cedar Park? Or?
Yeah.
I'm in
Cedar Park.
Georgetown.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, right on. Yeah. I ran for the school board.
Cool.
Had he known, he could have.
So could have
the tiebreaker.
Well, in my mind, it was going to be like an Eminem 8 Mile situation.
Okay.
You know, like that last rap where he's like, look, here's all the things. You know, it's already out there. So now what are you going to do? But it didn't work out.
I begged Joseph to let me do a smear campaign. I've always wanted to do a smear campaign video, and just he wouldn't let me do it. Now you wish you would have.
You know, signs just started going up for like city council elections in Cedar Park. And man, maybe? No.
Maybe.
Not yet. Not yet. At some point.
So would you do a smear campaign against him or against his opponents?
No, Jason's my boy.
Yeah,
well, but I mean, it could be that reverse psychology.
It could be.
And especially in a...
Yeah.
Like, these lies by my opponents are outrageous.
Exactly.
So let's get into the music stuff a little bit. You were raised in a musical household, yeah?
Correct.
Your dad was a musician?
My dad was a musician, a drummer, jazz and other styles as well. But he played most of his life professionally as a drummer. And my mom is a pianist, taught me some piano. My grandmother, also a musician. Yeah, there definitely some music lineage.
A long line, yeah. So you picked it up probably before you could playing instruments before you could remember.
Yeah, I remember playing piano pretty early on. I didn't get very good at anything very early on because I had, even at an early age, an addict brain. Like, oh, it's not serving me immediately in this moment. So
if I'm not good at it immediately, right? Like, fuck it, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's not satisfying me. Like,
didn't come easy to me. I'm going to put it down.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then you started picking up a little bit more. Around what age did you start finding enjoyment out of it?
I really started enjoying myself when I started writing music, which was probably around 12. I hated sitting and playing scales, with the metronome. Now I recognize the value in it and I try to catch up. It's harder to program your brain to do that stuff now and find time to do it now.
Right.
Yeah, once your brain starts to atrophy. And
Exactly. Once that frontal lobe develops, it's all downhill.
Yeah.
So are you like classically trained in anything, or did you more just kind of pick up and get little bits here and there and then just go on your own and learn more?
I'm not classically trained. I studied in the classical world and I went to college and studied composition for a few years. So there's a classical background to what I do, but I wouldn't call myself classically trained. I'm not good enough at any particular instrument to say I'm classically trained. But I did study composition in college, and that sort of provided the foundation for what I'm doing now. It just took a while to catch up. But I think like what really stimulated me at a young age about music was writing music. As when I would sit down and start learning somebody else's piece, like a Beethoven piece or something, I would very quickly lose focus and just move into like, oh, what if it did this instead? And then I'd, read books and imagine like, oh, here's a melodic idea that could represent this character. And started bands very soon after that, which were interesting. I had a friend though that was 12 years old and had a metal band, and they would sell out shows. And
really?
Have mosh pits and stuff when they were 12. It was pretty cool. It was very inspiring.
What were they called?
Kill the Ghost.
I like the name.
Yeah. Hey, Connor, if you're watching.
Was that here in Austin?
It was here in Austin. Yeah, it was amazing. They wore like the really tight skinny jeans and had the scene.
So you had to have been in a punk band at one point.
Not punk, no.
Really?
I was
I
in
feel
a lot
like
of
everyone
metal.
ends up in a punk band regardless of.
You want more metal?
Yeah, I was metal. I was more intellectual than punk.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Now I love punk,
what
but-
kind of metal?
Like I don't know. It was like a combination of hardcore metal, like American stuff, and also European. Like I'm just really into Opeth, which is like progressive metal.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's compose like a metal symphony.
Yes.
It's just no girlfriends. Did you see what I wrote for you?
It's going to be
20
a
minutes long.
4-album cycle detailing the fall of the.
About where the hobbits dwell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I love it.
We were called one of my metal bands was called Epic, but we spelled it EPEC because we're like, it's more artsy.
That is pretty hard.
Yeah.
People would probably be like, "What's EPEC?"
Yeah, Epic, right? Well, our thought at the time was that if Epic Records ever came to one of our shows, there would be a conflict.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You don't-
We were thinking ahead.
You were
know?
thinking ahead. The big the prog metal.
What year was
debacle.
this that record labels mattered?
I mean, probably 2004, 2005.
That was right. That was right when it started to stop
towards-
mattering.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like you still were aware of the fact that they had some kind of inherent value, but soon to be eradicated.
I don't know why, because I'll be frank. I've never listened to your music. The extent of my exposure is what like the alumni team at Recovery Unplugged has like. They showed me like a little clip of something you did at Sober Sessions one time, and then Julie Martin and Brittany O'Malley cannot stop ranting, and so she had it on in her office all week.
That's amazing.
But based on what I have heard, I imagined you going for like a Sigur Rós kind of vibe in 2004,
Okay.
which was way off.
Well, I did vibe with that kind of stuff. I think metal was where the most energy was, so that's what I thought would work the most live. But I definitely loved like Sigur Rós and ambient music, orchestral stuff. That was always my vibe.
The slow build to the heaviness.
Exactly. Well, that's why I think I was drawn to the Opeth kind of stuff,
Yeah.
because you could have all these different genres built into one very simple 20-minute long piece of music that
Very
no one
simple,
listens to.
yeah. 20 minutes.
So I recently had the pleasure working with Nate Nathanel on a project that he worked with Bayonne. I got to go into the studio and do some video with him, and I'd love for you to tell the story about how that came to be, because I thought that was just incredible at the show the other night.
Thank you, man. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the work you did on that. I loved what you did. And
you were a backup dancer?
The backup dancer, coffee maiden. No, actually, the guy who mixes a lot of Rick Rubin's records mentioned how much he enjoyed the video you made. His name's Dana Frio. He's a great guy.
Everybody loves Jason.
He's a great guy, man. He's a great guy. He's a humble guy. He's a humble guy. Very handsome too, and nice shoes.
Y'all stop it.
No, look,
group hug.
Look at Jason, like in real life, and then look at him on the video. Doesn't he look like younger and more like the camera loves you?
The lighting loves you.
It's all smoke and mirrors.
Can we just stare at you for a second in silence? Take some breaths.
Viewer at home, if you're watching,
we'll be right back.
Just take a minute. Look at this beautiful man.
Right. What was your question?
I don't even remember. You guys are just
so uncomfortable.
Project. How did the project come about?
The project with Bayonne. Okay. Yeah. Well, last year, 2023, I went through like a really, really painful loss of a partner of mine, and I separated, but it was a very long and kind of bizarre process. And it left me like really shattered. And I'd simultaneously decided to get sober again, maybe a few months before we separated. And so I was sort of in this place of internal chaos, like new again in sobriety, and losing this partner that I thought I was going to be sharing the rest of my life with. And it was just really dark and chaotic. And because I wasn't resorting to alcohol, I was like, okay, I gotta figure something else out here.
Yeah, because you're raw dogging it at that point.
Well, and I think I had drank to the point where I just didn't enjoy it anymore. So it didn't even call to me. Like it took a couple weeks to get over the urges, and then it was just like, it's gone, which I'm grateful for. Definitely not the case the other times. But I was driving home from a rehearsal with another artist, and one of Bayonne's songs came on KUTX, Austin radio station. And
shout out KUTX.
Shout out KUTX.
Lori Gallardo.
Yeah, she's the one that spun it.
Show.
She's great. Please don't behave. We don't. So excuse me. So the song called Solo that Roger, who is Bayonne, wrote and released Roger Sellers, correct. He released it last May or right around that time, and I was driving home and I heard the song, and it just hit something in me. The song is called Solo. I think you could probably surmise what it's about, and so I felt really connected to what he was singing about, and his production spoke to me in a way that felt almost like I'd already experienced it before. It was this weird sort of deja vu kind of experience. And so I got home and I bought the song on iTunes, which was much harder to do than you would think. It's really hard to buy music these days. It's a really deep dive.
No, you just rent it now.
Yeah. Well, you can't what I needed to do was take the song and put it into my music software so I could write to it. So I bought it. Then I have this orchestral software, which is kind of how I start my orchestral compositions before we outsource them to actual ensembles. And I just kind of wrote as a catharsis. I just wrote some strings and some woodwind kind of stuff, and was like, okay, that feels really good. And after a couple of days, I thought, I wonder if he would like this, because I'm really feeling this piece. And so I looked in my phone, and I had done sound for him at South by in 2017 or something like that. And I shot him a text, and he texted me back within hours actually, and was like, yeah, man, that sounds really cool. Let's have a call. I'm about to go on tour, but I'll be back in couple months, and let's set something up. And our original plan was to maybe work on a song or two and film it as like a special thing. And as we started working on this music, like more just kept coming out, and I wrote a new piece called Proceed, and we had this record, and we thought, oh, let's just do the record. And then a friend of mine named Reed Arnos, who's been a big supporter over the years, was like, you got to do this live. So we're like, okay, cool. We started with this like tiny idea, and now we have a record, and now we have a live show to plan for. It was a lot, and it happened really organically.
But I mean, from May of last year to as we record this, it's the end of March. Like that's fast.
Yeah, I did not think it would take up 8 months of my life, but it was worth it. It's definitely the most seamless collaboration that I've ever been a part of, I think. And I have a lot of really great collaborations, but when I say seamless, it's because we kind of hit this like symbiosis or something where I would present an idea and it would be exactly what he was hoping for, and then he would rebuttal and it would be exactly what I was hearing, and we sort of just like were in lockstep until we got to this final product that was like, that almost needed no revisioning up until just fine-tuning it in the mix stage, but it was very very like cathartic experience, but also just it felt like a rebirth for me musically, because at the beginning of that process I realized that so much of the music I'd written over the years was sort of like a diary entry of what I was going through that was really tough at the time, and so it was hard for me to revisit music after I'd put it out, because I was like, I don't want to connect to that trauma again,
Right.
So with this process, I kind of changed my approach and tried to come from a place where I could be observant of the pain or of the situation of the trauma, but not like right from inside of it, sort of like as a parallel to it, and therefore make it more about the outward expression and like the communal offering of music to listeners, as opposed to, this is something that I need for myself right now, the end. So the end result feels, even though it has some sorrow and some grief in it, it ends up feeling much more hopeful and optimistic than anything I've worked on before as a result of that, I think.
I love that. And, as a not very accomplished musician, right? Like most of the time that I get to play music nowadays is when I'm at the facility and have some extra time. I just kind of go out to the music room and see who's there, right? And, there's lots of times where like I go out there and I'm trying to like jam with the client, whoever it may be, and like it just doesn't work. Like it's just, kind of like, well, let's do some covers or whatever. And then every once in a while there's a client that like for whatever reason, like we vibe musically, and like he starts noodling on something and I do something, and then an hour later it's like, oh man, that's the most fun I've had in
an hour later. Jazz is born.
Jazz.
New jazz.
So do you like, out of writing, recording, or performing, which one do you enjoy the most?
Definitely not recording. I think that I oscillate between writing and performing. I have a studio at my home, so I record all the time, but it's sort of just like the vessel to do the other things. I think writing is probably the most sustainable for me, because it requires like more of a sustained, consistent energy, where performing is like this big build up, and then it's a little bit of a different high, I guess.
Right.
It's so I think writing's my favorite. Writing is the most sustainable, which I already said. So
Yeah. So they just performed the album with the full string section, or not the full album, but did you play the full album?
Yeah, we played
there?
the record front to back.
Play the full album at the 04 Center.
04 Center,
place.
Weezer's going on tour playing the Blue album.
Oh, nice.
For like the 40th anniversary or something.
40th?
No, it's like the 30th anniversary. I think it might be the 30th anniversary. Big fan of it. Sorry,
it's a great album.
Yeah. They did this a while back, but it was when I was on my honeymoon. I was really upset about it. Yeah. So anyway,
all right. So I'm gonna finish my question now.
Mm-hmm.
So recently,
honeymoon's canceled.
Yeah, just had the performance of the album that you worked on with Bayonne.
Right.
After it was done, after the performance, how did that feel?
It felt good. I think it felt like a really delayed come down, because I transitioned right into another big project. So I sort of am like still processing and coming down as I'm like starting this other thing. But it felt great. I mean, it was amazing to share that music in a room that was sold out. I mean, I've never sold out an audience before.
Yeah,
you know, and just like feeling the energy in that space and seeing the enthusiasm. And like, there's been so many people coming up to myself and Roger and, you know, expressing that they had emotional experiences listening to it, which is, you know, it's, if you get one or two of those, you feel like I did the thing, but we've been getting dozens of them. And it's just, it's really, really humbling and inspiring to
the very intimate space too, which I thought was great. It was it was perfect for it. But these people behind us were fucking talking.
They were talking.
Did you hear any chatter when you were up there?
Or you
were so in the zone?
I was in headphones.
That's right. So these people behind us, we were like
Was it Julie and Brittany?
third. No. They were there, but they weren't. And it was like every time it would get more quiet. Like they did it backwards. They like would be quiet when it was getting louder, and then as it would get softer and you would play something, it'd be like, that's a piano.
They're like, oh, thank God he quieted down. We can continue our conversation.
And it, you know, and
Did you close the refrigerator, George?
And Gabby was there, and she was just like, but luckily the guy who was sitting right next to us like turned around and was like, "Can you guys shut the fuck up?" And luckily it was very
shout out to that guy.
You know,
Shout out to
serious
that.
shout out.
Free
to
tickets
that
next
guy.
time.
He was a very nice guy too. But it turned out like they were just like, "Oh my God, we're so sorry. We were just very excited." So it
was very excited. That there's a piano on stage.
Yeah,
I've never seen one of those before.
But yeah, it was it de-escalated quite nicely. So it wasn't.
How much do you think the electric bill is for this venue?
Right.
Jeez, look at these lights.
It was, yeah.
They know we're in a recession.
Sounds like a Mystery Science Theater
right.
segment.
I want to change gears just a little bit because I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier. You know, you talked about initially coming into recovery in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of fast forwarded to coming back from a relapse and getting back into recovery. You know, we talk a lot on the show about how, like, you know, recovery looks very different for many people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would you mind sharing a little bit about like what happened in that first bout of recovery that took you back to drinking? Because I think that's one of the insidious things, right? It's like a lot of us hit a year or 2 years or 5 or 10 years and start to think like,
I got this.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Right.
That
And so like,
scares me.
so I'm always curious about like when someone who's found recovery and like, and you know what I mean? Like really finds recovery and then decides to go back. Like what was the catalyst in that process? Like what did that look like for you?
Yeah. Definitely happy to share. I think that experience that I talked about, sort of like the finding the power of God moment or whatever, you know, the universe, the connectivity with the power greater than myself, like that was a life altering moment. And then coming out of rehab, I moved right back in with that guy that I had been with before.
The
like in
drugs
the
on the
same
plate guy.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't relapse because of him. I relapsed because I found out that my ex-wife had got a new boyfriend, and I was like, oh, well, you know,
I'll show you.
I'll show you. I'm going to control the one thing that I can control right now. And, you know, I think I kind of dipped my toes back into drinking periodically. Like I'd get really drunk and then I'd take a couple months off, and then I'd have a couple beers and I'd get really drunk, then I'd take a month off, and it just slowly accordioned back into daily drinking over the course of a couple of years.
And in your mind was just like, I can do this. Like, I can just get drunk once in a while and it's okay. And
well, yeah, I was completely resistant to the idea that I could never do it again.
Yeah.
Like I think it was that forever thinking that was my downfall. And so I guess like what the catalyst for me going back into recovery was at the beginning of 2023, just being in a really dark spot and like basically unable to move off of the couch and unable to do anything unless I was drinking. Like I didn't even want to drink anymore. I didn't like the feeling of drinking, but my body and the psychological cycle I was in was so deflated that I had to drink in order to get stuff done. And I had a lot of stuff I had to do at the time. So I'd be like, oh shit, it's 5 p.m. I haven't moved yet. Like, got to run to the liquor store so I can like get started.
Yeah.
And after my partner at the time fell ill and I went to go stay with her and care for her for a while, like I realized that in order to care for this person, I was going to have to be sober. So that was the original reason that I got sober again. But I quickly realized that I was starting to make the same mistake that I'd made the last time, which was doing it for someone else. So I committed to the AA program pretty heavily. I still go to AA meetings, but I'm not like the AA poster boy per se. But,
oh, really? That's why we booked you.
Yeah. Shit. Sorry, guys. False
We're gonna have to
advertising.
change the subtitle on this.
That reminds me of a Weezer album.
Oh man, the Blue Book album. So, but basically, I went in and there was this old guy that was like, "Look, I can tell you're straddling the fence."
His name Charlie.
His name was his name was Gary. It's close.
That is pretty close.
Remember we used to have a joke that like every meeting had a Chuck
Charlie.
Everyone's got a Bob for sure.
Yeah,
there's always a Bob, and a Jeff. But I think everywhere you go, it's a Jeff. Jeff's like the most common name.
Is it?
At least in my world, I know like 8 Jeffs.
Shout out Jeff.
Shout out,
Yeah.
all y'all. You know who you are.
Boy. Is that JEFF or GEOFF?
I don't know any G's.
I know a G.
You know a G, Jeff? Yeah. Should get him on.
You actually met one. My friend that was at the South by Southwest panel from LA.
Oh, right. Okay.
Jeff. So now you do know.
Now I do. That was a great panel, by the way.
Right.
That was really, really inspiring.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
So bummed not to be there.
Yeah. Back to your story.
I feel so
Not AA poster boy.
not AA poster boy.
Yet.
Well, I basically I went to this meeting and I was just going every day as a way to do something other than stay in the place I was staying in, caring for my partner at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, well, this is one activity that I can do outside of that. And so I would go every day, and this guy was like, I can tell, or there was this one meeting where it was just the two of us. And he's like, I can tell that you're like not committing to this and also not committing to whatever else it is that you're doing. So you should like just investigate the pasture fully. It's like, just jump all the way over here, check it out for a week or two. And if it's no good, then you can go back to whatever else you were doing.
Liquor store's still there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But well, it's that like idea of like contempt prior to investigation. And I was like really contemptuous, I guess. It's like, this isn't for me, but so I fully committed. And once I did that, then recovery became about my journey, not what I was doing for somebody else. And I became really inspired by sort of digging through the shit that I still carried with me. I think that my initial experience in recovery in 2019 was where I became self-aware. And so in 2023, when I got sober, it was like just re-cleaning my side of the street. Like my inventory and all that stuff looked like this compared to 2019's, magnum opus. So I don't know. There was a moment where I realized that I would die if I didn't stop, and that was the last time that I drank. It was in May of last year, and I don't exactly know how I realized it. It wasn't like an intellectual realization. It was like something deeper.
Right.
It's this moment of like, oh, I can see the emptiness. I can feel the vacuum, and I'm like right there, and I might just die.
I get that. My last run, my last 6 months that I was out, I maintained like a really good facade of like, I'm not getting high. And it came to the point where I didn't have any money and I was going to have to pawn something. And something inside of me was like, if you pawn something, like fucking strap in, like we're going balls to the wall with this. And I just knew it like intrinsically. So like I absolutely understand that feeling of like knowing like I'm going to fucking die.
For me, it was a similar feeling, but it was more like, I'm not gonna die, but I'm just gonna wish that I was dead for as long as I'm alive.
When does that go away?
When did it go?
Past tense,
I'll let you
present
know.
tense are very important.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, so we're getting close to the end of our time, but
Mhm.
what's next in your music career?
A lot. I find myself really busy right now, which is great. I think being sober might have had something to do with that. You know? Like I responded to emails and like committed to deadlines and paid shit on
Followed
time.
through.
Yeah.
Maybe you're aligned with the fucking universe now.
Maybe, I don't know.
And didn't
Maybe I can just
listen
pay
to
attention.
the maybe I shouldn't do this thing, you know, because I'm sure that there was something when you were going to reach out to Roger that been like, nah, he's not going to listen to this, or he's not going to
Yeah.
like it, you know.
Yeah, there was definitely that moment of like, why, like texting somebody to ask if they want to work on something never works. But it's happened to me twice now, so I'm actually a pretty big advocate.
Now you're
Like, just cold call people. It's
yeah, you
we'll
got to
see.
get to Rick Rubin. You have a connection,
Yeah, right. I'm sure that nobody's ever asked Dana for that service before.
right? Hey, listen, I know you know Rick Rubin.
That's his input filter
Here's
for
my
cutting you out of
demo.
his life. Yeah, here's my demo CD.
It's called Shangri La La La.
It's called Please Listen to This, Rick Rubin. It's really good, I promise.
Volume 4.
Volume 4. Copy 1700. What's next? I'm working on a film score right now that I'm really excited about. It'll actually be my first project with an orchestra. The Bayonne stuff was a chamber ensemble, which is like a small orchestral ensemble, but this is with the Budapest National Scoring Orchestra, and it's awesome. And
wow.
so I'm really excited about that. I'm working with an artist named Daniel Fears here in Austin on a show that he has coming up in June, and I have a ton of my own music that is just about ready to be put out, and I've just been kind of strategizing that because, you know, releasing music into the void is so easy to do these days. And
Right.
so having some intention behind outputting music is
There's a
as
strategy
important as
to it,
having
yeah.
music, you know.
I'd love to see a film with your score behind it because it's so cinematic, and I just like when I listen to it, that's exactly because I'm a visual thinker, you know. So I'm always just like close my eyes and be like, I could make a cool little short film to this. So maybe one day in the future.
Well, it's actually the new Avengers movie.
Avengers 4.
I think it's like
Avengers 12 and
yeah,
a
I think
half.
there's way more than 4 at this point. Time,
Fast and the Furious
yeah.
number 7.
No, there's like 11 of those now, bro.
Oh yeah, they went to space, bro.
Wait, they went to space?
They went to space. Yeah, I think in Fast and Furious X, or it might just be Fast
Speed
X.
of light.
They're like drifting a space shuttle.
I can't wait to see that.
Yeah, rapid.
Yeah.
It's rapid fire question time.
It's rapid fire question time.
Ah,
Oh, you guys did that in tandem. That was really cute.
We do the we're
we're adorable.
You are.
we are.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan.
I'll go first. Backstreet or NSYNC?
In sync.
Wrong answer, but okay.
Supernatural experience. He hates the question.
Wait,
Have you ever had a supernatural experience?
I have, yeah.
Ghost, UFO? What was it?
my ex-wife, there's a little tiny bit of a backstory. I'll try to make it as quick as
That's
possible. But her stepfather had a wife that passed in the house that he built for her, and we visited that house. And her son that was still alive was named Nate, but he hadn't been to that house in a really long time. And I was sleeping in the house, and the name Nate had been like uttered in that house. And so I woke up in the middle of the night in like sleep paralysis with this woman just staring at me. And as soon as I looked at her, she just like disappeared.
Nathan.
It was, yeah, exactly.
That's
I crapped my pants.
pretty.
All right. Okay. That's 2 guests now.
Yeah. He hates when I ask that question.
Well, because he asked it for like 5 or 6 guests in a row, and the answer was like, nope.
Well, spoiler alert, he's going to ask something about pizza or ice cream
Okay.
next.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not.
Pizza.
No. Son of a bitch. All right. What is your go-to song that is just, it's like that banger that will lift your spirit whenever it crosses your path?
Banger that will lift my spirit whenever it crosses my path. The ending song for the Goofy movie.
Oh, Powerline?
Eye to eye.
Yeah.
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 Nice.
Yes.
For the first time.
I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to believe it,
Mhm.
but what is your favorite conspiracy theory?
Younger Dryas.
The what?
The Younger Dryas. Like the idea that every 10,000 years there's like some climate event, but there's been like many civilizations that have had advanced technology. It's kind of Ancient Aliens adjacent, but I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, but it's compelling. Also, the idea that like there used to be giants and that like things like Devil's Tower were like actually petrified trees that were cut down by giants. I definitely don't believe that, but it would be super cool if
Right.
it was real.
Easter Island stuff. Yeah.
There's some weird stuff.
There's some good stuff.
So Ben and Jerry's comes to you and they say, Nathaniel,
Mhm.
we'd like to make a signature ice cream flavor for you. What do you want to call it? And what are we going to put in it?
Didn't see that one coming.
Signature ice cream. Welcome to the Natrix.
Whoa.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and it would just be an empty carton.
With a red pill and a blue pill.
A red chocolate chip or a Skittle or something.
I think that's the best name that we've had.
That's a really good one.
For that question.
That one's amazing. I think I might add an addendum to that question.
Okay.
And because you know how now they have, Ben and Jerry's does this thing where you can only get certain flavors at certain stores.
Mhm.
Like Target gets exclusives. And
Wow.
That's how they get you.
yeah.
Target
So
exclusive.
What store would you choose to be the exclusive place that would sell
Ooh.
this ice cream?
I mean, I'd have to go with Cabela's.
Yeah.
Nice. Cabela's exclusive.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for being here with us this week. The last
you
thing we
all.
like to do before we wrap it up is just kind of give you the floor to, promote anything you're trying to promote, let people know where they can find you, find your music, your, all that kind of good stuff. And if you'd like to leave a little like final words of wisdom for our lovely viewers at home.
And Gabby will kill you if you don't plug all your socials.
Okay. All right. Well, now I'm really nervous because Gabby would kill me. No. Well, so you can find me under Nathaniel Earl, which isn't actually Nathaniel, not Nathanel. So NATHANIEL.EARL on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. And that's the best place to stay up to speed with what I'm doing. I have all the music that I'm working on linked in those socials. What was the other thing you asked for? Words of wisdom?
Yeah.
I don't
Whatever
know.
message you want to leave the world. I mean, this goes out to millions and millions.
I'd say start your morning with a gratitude list. That's what I've been doing for about a year now. And it's a pretty common thing in recovery, or a pretty common thing that we talk about, but I do 12 gratitudes. And I learned this from this guy up in Georgetown named John Henry McDonald. He's a really great guy. There's something about the 12 that's like a little bit more than I can just summon immediately. So it like actually forces me to think about what I'm grateful for. It changes the way that my brain is acting in the morning to being receptive to gratitude and kind of looking for the things that I appreciate or that I find beautiful in the experience around me. And so like no matter how bad the previous day was, each day kind of starts from that same place. And so the spiral, like it never has enough momentum to go beyond one day. So I think that would be my closing statement.
That was good. I thought he was going to say Epstein didn't kill himself. That's what...
And Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh, man. Did he?
That's your favorite conspiracy theory, huh?
Did he? No.
Do you know about the Diddy stuff?
Yeah, my mom.
I thought you were saying did he? Like,
No. My
Idiot.
mom worked with Sean Puffy Combs for a while, so I've known about a lot of this stuff for quite some
And
time.
you didn't say
Knows
shit.
it-
And he's just
What a piece of crap.
I told Cat Williams, and he told everybody.
All right, well, Nathaniel, thank you again so much for
Hey, thank you guys for
coming
having
on our
me.
silly little show.
It was a lot of fun.
We're super grateful for your time and the conversation. And to you, our loyal listeners at home, we're grateful for you. You're on my gratitude list.
All 12
Me
of you.
too.
Wherever you watch us, stream us, Spotify, Apple Music or Apple Podcasts, YouTube, we're on Spotify.
Once you have on Spotify.
All the places
Everywhere.
you can listen to us. Don't forget to like, follow, share, tell your friends. When someone hands you the aux cord, just put it on. Force them.
Yeah. in the druggy buggy.
Yeah, in the druggy buggy. Yeah.
The Ativan.
You're at your local CrossFit gym, and someone says, "What do you want to listen to, guys?"
Toxicology. TALK.
And as we like to say here, there's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out, and we hope you find yours.